Quentin Tarantino, the enfant terrible of modern cinema whose dialogue-driven masterpieces like Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastard have redefined storytelling with their razor-sharp wit and unflinching gaze at human folly, has once again proven his penchant for provocative opinions. In a recent episode of the Bret Easton Ellis Podcast, the director unleashed a scathing takedown of Paul Dano's performance as Eli Sunday in Paul Thomas Anderson's 2007 opus There Will Be Blood, labeling it a big giant flaw that drags down what could have been a near-perfect film. Ranking the epic period drama fifth among his top 10 movies of the 21st century, Tarantino didn't mince words, arguing that Dano's portrayal undermines the two-hander dynamic intended between his character and Daniel Day-Lewis's towering Daniel Plainview, rendering the narrative lopsided and the antagonist woefully inadequate. At its core, There Will Be Blood is a seismic exploration of ambition, faith, and the American dream's corrosive underbelly, set against the oil boom backdrop of early 20th century California. Day-Lewis's Oscar-winning turn as the ruthless prospector Plainview is a tour de force, brooding, volcanic, and utterly commanding, a performance that single-handedly elevates the film to legendary status. Enter Paul Dano as Eli Sunday, the ambitious preacher whose ideological clash with Plainview should form the story's pulsating heart. Tarantino's grievance is that this rivalry never ignites. Instead, Dano comes across as weak sauce, a weak, uninteresting guy, who fails to match his co-star's intensity. Obviously, it's supposed to be a two-hander, and it's also so drastically obvious that it's not a two-hander, Tarantino lamented, his frustration palpable as he dissected the mismatch. He went further, employing his signature colorful vernacular. So, you put him with the weakest male actor in SAG? The limpest D***K in the world. It's classic Tarantino, blunt, irreverent, and laced with a machismo that borders on the profane, yet rooted in a deep reverence for craft. Tarantino's critique isn't born of malice but from a filmmaker's exacting standards. He's long championed performances that crackle with authenticity, where actors inhabit roles with such ferocity that the screen seems to strain under the weight. In Dano's case, he concedes it's not a terrible performance but a non-entity, a void where confrontation should blaze. Eli Sunday, with his fire and brimstone sermons and manipulative piety, demands a presence that can stare down Plainview's monolithic greed, a verbal and spiritual joust that tests both men's souls. Instead, Tarantino sees a limp foil, one that dilutes the film's thematic potency. This imbalance, he argues, caps There Will Be Blood at number 5 on his list, whereas a stronger adversary might have propelled it to the top echelons, rivaling the likes of No Country for Old Men or The Dark Knight in his pantheon. Intriguingly, Tarantino floated an audacious casting hypothetical. Austin Butler, the Elvis and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood star, would have been wonderful in the role, despite being a mere teenager at the film's release. It's a tantalizing what-if, imagining Butler's brooding charisma, honed in roles that blend vulnerability with menace, infusing Eli with the menace needed to unsettle Plainview. This suggestion underscores Tarantino's forward-looking eye for talent, often plucking unknowns and molding them into icons as he did with Christoph Waltz or Samuel L. Jackson. When pressed by host Bret Easton Ellis on other Dano roles, Tarantino doubled down with a sweeping dismissal. I don't care for him. I don't care for him, I don't care for Owen Wilson, and I don't care for Matthew Lillard. Lumping Dano with these actors, each known for quirky offbeat charm rather than dramatic heft, paints him as perpetually miscast in Tarantino's worldview, better suited to indie dramedies than epic showdowns. This outburst fits seamlessly into Tarantino's oeuvre as a critic auteur, where film analysis is as much performance art as intellectual exercise. His lists and rants, delivered with encyclopedic passion, have influenced generations, from podcasters dissecting his references to aspiring directors emulating his nonlinear flair. There Will Be Blood itself owes a debt to Tarantino's era of auteur-driven cinema, with Anderson channeling the sprawling ambition of classics like Citizen Kane while infusing it with modern grit. Yet, Tarantino's nitpick reveals his intolerance for squandered potential. In a film that grapples with power's intoxicating pull, a feeble Eli diminishes the stakes, making Plainview's descent feel unchallenged rather than inexorable. Dano's career, by contrast, thrives in nuance over bombast. From his breakout in Little Miss Sunshine to introspective turns in Love and Mercy and The Batman, he excels at quiet intensity, embodying everyman unraveling under pressure. Critics have praised his subtlety, but Tarantino demands spectacle, a clash of titans, not whispers in the wind. This divergence highlights a broader schism in acting philosophies, the method's immersive depths versus Tarantino's preference for theatrical fireworks. As debates rage online, with Dano defenders citing the role's deliberate restraint to mirror Eli's fraudulent zeal, Tarantino's words have reignited appreciation for the film, prompting rewatches that affirm its brilliance despite the flaw. In the end, Tarantino's bold critique isn't just shade, it's a love letter to cinema's highs, urging us to demand more from our antagonists and our artists. Whether Dano ever responds remains to be seen. His reticence might only fuel the fire, but in Tarantino's universe, every performance is a battlefield, and Eli Sunday just didn't bring the artillery.